"Get out of my house. This place isn't for you anymore." The words weren't whispered. They weren't accidental. They were sharp, deliberate, and cruel. Iris Calder froze in the hallway, clutching the edge of her shawl. Her son, Kellen Drake, stood in the doorway with his arms crossed, his expression hard, rehearsed, almost as if he'd been waiting for this moment. "You heard me," he snapped, his tone cold enough to chill the air. "You can't stay here. You're nothing but a burden, and Brielle and I are done putting up with it." Before we get into this, tell me, where are you watching this from? Comment your city below. And if you're wondering what would make a son say that to his own mother, just like we are, hit that subscribe button and like the video. We're shook too. Now, let's rewind to how this moment started.
Behind him, Brielle Hart, her daughter-in-law, leaned casually against the frame, her lips curved in a faint smirk. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her silence told Iris all she needed to know. They had planned this together. For a moment, Iris thought her knees might give out. This was her home, Halden's home. She had raised Kellen here, tended the garden, cooked countless meals in the kitchen, prayed by the fireplace when life had gotten hard. And now, her own son was casting her out like an unwelcome guest. "Kellen," her voice cracked, "how can you say this to me? After everything?" He cut her off with a sharp wave of his hand. "Save the guilt trip. You'll be fine. There are homes for people like you. Or figure it out yourself, but you can't stay here another night." The slam of the door behind her was final. That night, Iris found herself wandering the streets with nothing but a small overnight bag. At 72, she had never imagined life could unravel so quickly. She had always believed family meant safety, love, and belonging. Now she found herself invisible, shivering beneath the faint glow of a street lamp as cars rushed by, their drivers unaware of the woman quietly braking on the sidewalk. By dawn, exhaustion had driven her to the edge of the city where she rested briefly under a bridge. For a moment, she wondered if this was how her story would end, not with dignity, but with abandonment. "Halden, what would you say if you saw this?" she thought, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Did we raise him wrong? Did I love him too much? Or not enough?" Help came from an unexpected place. A security guard named Hector Salazar spotted her in the lobby of a nearby building later that day. Instead of shooing her away, he quietly offered her a seat, a cup of warm. "I'll stand with you." For the first time since Holden's death, Iris felt something stir inside her, a small but steady flame. She left Tamsin's office that evening with her head higher than it had been in weeks. Her future was uncertain, and the path ahead promised conflict, but she knew one thing: she would not go quietly. Iris Calder had been cast out of her own home, betrayed by her own son, but she was not done. She refused to disappear. Iris's own son slammed the door in her face and called her a burden. And yet, instead of collapsing, she's choosing to fight back. But how many mothers out there don't get that chance? How many suffer in silence, unseen, unheard? If you've made it this far, you're already proving that stories like Iris's matter. Don't let her stand alone. Like this video, subscribe, and share it, because by doing so, you're not just supporting Iris, you're standing with every parent and grandparent who deserves dignity. The envelope slid under her apartment door with a faint hiss. Iris stared at it for a long time before daring to pick it up. Thick, cream paper, embossed with a corporate logo that wasn't familiar. No return address, just her name, written in her son's bold, impatient scrawl. She already knew what it was. Her hands trembled as she tore it open. The title leapt out in heavy black font: Family, Wellness, and Property Agreement. Page after page of legal jargon spilled out, but the meaning was clear, even without a law degree. The document stated that Kellen Drake would take over all financial decisions for the health and security of his mother. Medical decisions, property transfers, control of accounts, all of it bundled neatly under his authority. If she signed, Iris would become a shadow in her own life. Her breath caught. Kellen hadn't even waited a week since throwing her out. Not one visit, not one call to ask where she was staying or how she was holding up. Just paperwork. Paperwork designed to strip her of everything. The door buzzed. She jumped. Help came from an unexpected place. A security guard named Hector Salazar spotted her in the lobby of a nearby building later that day. Instead of shooing her away, he quietly offered her a seat, a cup of warm coffee, and a few kind words. "Take your time, ma'am," he said gently. "No one's rushing you out of here." That simple kindness steadied her shaking hands. It reminded her that there was still humanity in the world, even if it hadn't come from her own flesh and blood. But kindness alone wouldn't be enough. She needed protection. She needed strength. She needed to fight. When Iris checked her phone that evening, a new message from Kellen flashed across the screen. "Mom, about the property. Don't worry. Brielle and I will handle everything. You'll be taken care of if you just sign the agreement we'll send you." Her chest tightened. There it was. The real reason. They hadn't just wanted her out of the house. They wanted control. Her home, her savings, her future. All of it. Her fingers trembled, but not with weakness, with fury. So that's what this is about. Not me, not my well-being, just the money. The next morning, Iris called the one person she knew would tell her the truth without sugarcoating it, Tamsin Lowell, a longtime acquaintance and respected attorney. Within an hour, Iris sat across from Tamsin in her office, sunlight spilling across neat stacks of legal papers. "Iris, listen to me carefully," Tamsin said, her tone steady. "You won't have to worry about bills or property. You can just rest." "Rest," Iris repeated softly, staring at the document in her hands. Her chest tightened. "You mean disappear?" Brielle's smile faltered. "Don't make this harder than it has to be. We're trying to help you." Iris looked her straight in the eye. "No, you're trying to help yourselves." With a sudden burst of strength, she ripped the agreement in half. The sound of tearing paper was sharp, final, and satisfying. Brielle's face hardened. "You'll regret this." "No, Brielle," Iris said quietly, her voice steady. "I regret raising a son who thinks love can be replaced with control. I regret it letting it go this far. But signing my life away to the two of you, that I will never regret refusing." Brielle's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing more. She snatched the torn papers from the floor and stormed out, her heels clattering like gunshots down the hall. "Stay with me now." That night, Iris sat at the small table in her rented room, staring at the scraps of the so-called agreement. Her heart pounded with both fear and defiance. She didn't know what Kellen and Brielle would try next, but she knew they would not stop here. She thought of her late husband, Halden. She could almost hear his voice, calm and firm. To relatives, even to Halden. "He's just stressed. He's just finding his way." But now there was no excuse left. This wasn't stress. This was cruelty. This was greed. Tamsin wasted no time. She gathered Odette's report, secured notarized statements, and filed a motion with the court. The forged documents would not stand uncontested. But Iris knew this was only the beginning. Kellen and Brielle wouldn't stop. They had tasted the idea of control, and now they would claw at anything to get it. Meanwhile, across town, Kellen was already plotting his next move. "If the signature's questioned, we'll just pivot," he told Brielle. "We can create a foundation, say it was Mom's idea. Paint her as confused, unstable. If we look like the caring children just trying to manage things, the court will sympathize with us." Brielle smirked, "And by the time anyone untangles it, the assets will already be under our control." Kellen nodded, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "Exactly. She doesn't know who she's up against." But what Kellen didn't realize was that Iris, once soft-spoken and pliable, was no longer the same woman he had dismissed at the doorstep. With Tamsin and Odette at her side, she was learning how to fight. Late one night, Iris sat by her window, the city lights glowing faintly beyond. She thought about the bridge she had once huddled under, the shame of being cast out, the sting of betrayal. She thought about Halden and the family they had built.
Then she looked down at the forged document on her lap. Her signature, but not hers. Her name, but stolen. "This ends with me," she whispered into the dark. "No more silence. No more letting them decide who I am." Iris just uncovered her son's most dangerous move yet, a forged document with her name scrawled across it. But here's the question. Will the court believe her, or will Kellen's lies be enough to turn the system against her? What do you think? Can a mother really defeat her own son in court when the evidence is stacked against her? Kellen Drake was not used to hearing the word no, especially not from his own mother. When Brielle stormed back into their condo that evening, torn scraps of the agreement in her hands, Kellen's face turned red with fury. "She ripped it up," he barked. "That old woman actually thinks she can defy us?" Brielle tossed the shreds on the table. "She called us out, Kellen. She knows exactly what we're trying to do." For a long moment, Kellen paced the room, jaw clenched, mind racing. Then his voice dropped into a cold whisper. "Fine. If she won't sign it, we'll make it look like she did." Days later, Iris Calder sat in Tamsin Lowell's office when her lawyer slid a set of papers across the desk. "Iris," Tamsin said carefully, "I need you to look at this." Iris squinted at the document. It was the same family wellness and property agreement she had ripped in half. Only this time, her signature was neatly inked at the bottom. Her heart skipped. "But I never signed this." Tamsin's lips tightened. "I know. This is a forgery. They filed it with the county clerk yesterday." Her chest heaved. How could he? How could my own son do this? Tamsin leaned forward, her tone low and sharp. "Because he thinks he can get away with it. But he underestimated you. And me." By evening, Iris was shaking with a mix of fear and fury. The betrayal was no longer whispers or veiled threats. It was written in ink, stamped with lies, paraded as truth. She called Odette Haynes, a forensic investigator Tamsin trusted. Within a week, Odette had pulled together her analysis. "The signature is a fake," she explained, laying out her report. "The strokes are copied. The pressure is uneven. Someone traced this from an old document." She held up an enlarged scan showing the shaky hesitation lines where the forger's hand had trembled. Sloppy work, really, but dangerous if no one knows to question it. Iris sat back in her chair, her hands trembling in her lap. She wasn't sure what stung more, the audacity of the forgery or the knowledge that her own child had orchestrated it. For years, she had defended Kellen to neighbors, to relatives, even to Heldon. "He's just stressed. He's just finding his way." But now there was no excuse left. This wasn't stress. This was cruelty. This was greed. Tamsin wasted no time. She gathered Odette's report, secured notarized statements, and filed a motion with the court. The forged documents would not stand uncontested. But Iris knew this was only the beginning. Kellen and Brielle wouldn't stop. They had tasted the idea of control, and now they would claw at anything to get it. Meanwhile, across town, Kellen was already plotting his next move. "If the signature's questioned, we'll just pivot," he told Brielle. "We can create a foundation, say it was Mom's idea. Paint her as confused, unstable. If we look like the caring children just trying to manage things, the court will sympathize with us." Brielle smirked, "And by the time anyone untangles it, the assets will already be under our control." Kellen nodded, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "Exactly. She doesn't know who she's up against." But what Kellen didn't realize was that Iris' sting of betrayal. She thought about Holden and the family they had built. Then she looked down at the forged document on her lap, her signature, but not hers. Her name, but stolen. "This ends with me," she whispered into the dark. "No more silence. No more letting them decide who I am." Iris just uncovered her son's most dangerous move yet, a forged document with her name scrawled across it. But here's the question. Will the court believe her, or will Kellen's lies be enough to turn the system against her? You know, I've been thinking about this for a moment. Can a mother really defeat her own son in court when the evidence is stacked against her? This is a good point to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts below, because in the next chapter, you'll see whether justice bends toward truth or power. The courthouse smelled faintly of old wood and dust, a place where truth was supposed to be weighed on scales, but Iris Calder knew better than to believe justice always came easy. She sat stiffly beside Tamsin Lowell, her attorney, the forged agreement laid out on the table between them. Across the aisle, Kellen Drake leaned back in his chair as if the outcome were already decided. Brielle Hart sat beside him, perfectly poised, her hand resting lightly on his arm like a queen at court. The judge, Eleanor Briggs, entered, her presence commanding immediate silence. Her sharp eyes swept the room. We are here today to review the contested document concerning Mrs. Iris Calder and her son Kellen Drake. Counsel, proceed. Tamsin stood, her voice steady. Your Honor, the document in question is a forgery. Mrs. Calder never signed away her rights, nor did she consent to her son assuming legal control of her property or accounts. We have expert testimony to prove this. Kellen's lawyer, Franklin Shore, rose smoothly. Your Honor, my client is simply trying to protect his aging mother. If she is now confused about her own decisions, that is unfortunate, but it does not erase the fact that she willingly entrusted him with authority. Iris's fist clenched under the table. Confused? Her son was not only lying, but painting her as incompetent. The first witness was Odette Haynes, the forensic investigator. She walked harder now. He doesn't know how to lose gracefully. Iris nodded, her resolve firm. Then let him come. I've lived too long to let fear silence me now. That night in Kellen and Brielle's condo, anger seethed like smoke. She made me look like a liar in front of everyone, Kellen spat, pacing the floor. That court, that judge, they think they can humiliate me? Brielle folded her arms. We'll regroup. If the forgery doesn't work, we'll push the narrative harder. We'll say she's unstable. We'll make her look like she doesn't know what she's saying. The more she fights, the more desperate she'll look. Kellen stopped pacing. A cold smile curved his lips. If it's a war she wants, it's a war she'll get. The courtroom battle has begun, and Iris has truth on her side. But Kellen isn't backing down. He's plotting to paint his own mother as unstable, confused, unfit to make her own choices. When greed collides with dignity, which one do you think the system will protect? The courtroom was packed on the day of the ruling. Reporters lingered in the back rows, curious neighbors filled the benches, and every tick of the clock seemed louder than the last. Iris Calder sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, hands folded tightly in her lap. She had aged years in just weeks, but her eyes carried a steadiness Kellen Drake had never seen before. Beside her, Tamsin Lowell adjusted her papers. Stay calm, she whispered. The truth is on our side. Across the aisle, Kellen shifted uncomfortably. He leaned toward Brielle Hart. His jaw was set, but his eyes flickered with unease. Brielle whispered something in his ear, but her usual icy confidence seemed thinner, cracked around the edges. Judge Eleanor Briggs entered, her robe flowing behind her. She wasted no time. This court has reviewed the evidence, including expert testimony and forensic analysis of the contested documents. It is clear that Mrs. Calder's signature on the so-called agreement was forged. Gasps rippled across the courtroom. Judge Briggs continued, her tone sharp. Not only is the agreement invalid, but this court is referring the matter to the district attorney for potential criminal charges of fraud and forgery. Kellen's face drained of color. Brielle's lips parted, but no words came out. Iris sat taller in her chair. For the first time since her son had thrown her out, she felt the weight lift from her chest. That Judge Briggs wasn't finished. Furthermore, she said firmly, given the clear attempt to exploit Mrs. Calder, the court strongly recommends that her assets be placed under protection of an independent trust of her choosing. This will ensure her security moving forward. Tamsin nodded toward Iris. They had already prepared for this. The Blue Orchard Trust was ready. Within hours of leaving the courthouse, her home, her accounts, and every significant asset would be locked down, untouchable without her explicit consent and the oversight of a trusted board. Her life, her dignity was safe again. When the gavel struck, the sound echoed like thunder. Kellen surged to his feet. "This isn't over," he spat, pointing toward his mother. "You think you've won, but you'll regret crossing me, Mom." He was right. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when the knock came. 3 steady raps on her door. Iris opened it to find Kellen Drake standing on her porch, water dripping from his expensive coat. Beside him, Brielle Hart wore her best sympathetic expression, a bouquet of flowers clutched in her manicured hands. "Mom," Kellen said softly, his voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed, but not sincere. "Can we come in?" Iris studied them for a long moment. These were the same 2 who had thrown her out of her own house, forged her signature, dragged her dignity through court. Now suddenly they wanted to play the part of devoted children? But Iris didn't move aside. "Say what you came to say here." Brielle stepped forward, flowers extended. "We're sorry, Mrs. Calder. Truly, we lost our way. The stress, the misunderstandings, it all got out of hand. We thought we were protecting you, but we see now how wrong we were." Iris's lips twitched. She almost laughed at the performance. Kellen cleared his throat, lowering his eyes like a chastised boy. "Please, Mom, I don't want to fight anymore. Let's put the past behind us. Let us help you. We can make things right." Iris's silence stretched. For a moment, Kellen's eyes darted nervously, as if worried the act wasn't convincing enough. Then, slowly, Iris stepped back. "Fine, come in." They exchanged a quick, relieved glance and followed her inside. The living room smelled faintly of lavender. On the coffee table sat a teapot, 2 empty cups, and a stack of papers. Kellen's eyes narrowed when he noticed the papers. "What's this?" "Something I've been working on," Iris said calmly, settling into her armchair. "Sit." Reluctantly, they obeyed. She poured the tea slowly, deliberately, letting the silence grow heavier. Finally, she looked directly at her son. "You came here because you think I'll fold, because you think I still crave your love enough to overlook what you did." Kellen stiffened. "Mom, that's not—" "Quiet," she said, her voice sharper than he had ever heard it. "I've given you too many chances to explain. Now you'll listen." She tapped the stack of papers. "This is every message, every voicemail, every visit you and Brielle made since the trial, recorded, logged, and notarized. Every fake apology, every manipulative attempt. And do you know what's interesting? The district attorney has been very eager to see whether your remorse was genuine or another trick." Brielle's face paled. You recorded us?" "I prepared for you because I knew you'd come back. People like you can't help themselves. Greed doesn't vanish overnight. It waits. It plots. And I wasn't going to let you take another swing at me." Kellen's jaw tightened, fury flashing in his eyes, but beneath the rage, there was fear. Real fear. "You wouldn't," he muttered. Iris leaned forward, her gaze steady. "I already have. The DA will decide what to do with the evidence. I don't need revenge, Kellen. I don't need to see you in jail. But I need you to understand one thing." She paused, her voice trembling with both sorrow and strength. "You no longer have power over me. Not my home, not my money, not my heart." The silence that followed was heavier than any courtroom gavel. Kellen rose suddenly, shoving his chair back. "Let's go, Brielle." His voice cracked as he stormed to the door. Brielle lingered a moment, her lips trembling as if she might beg forgiveness. But Iris's steady gaze stopped her. "Go with him," Iris said gently. "You've made your choices." Brielle lowered her head and followed her husband into the rain. When the door closed, Iris exhaled slowly. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from release. She had faced them one last time and had not broken. For the first time in months, she felt truly free. Weeks passed. Iris began volunteering at the local library, reading to children in the afternoons. She joined a small gardening club with Odette and found herself laughing more than she thought possible. Hector Salazar dropped by occasionally to fix small things around the house, always refusing payment with a smile. One evening, as she trimmed lavender sprigs in her garden, Tamsin Lowell stopped by. "You've come a long way, Iris. You didn't just win in court. You reclaimed your life." Iris nodded, inhaling the scent of the flowers.
Iris sat on her porch with a cup of tea. The road ahead was uncertain, but she no longer feared it. Betrayal had not ended her story. It had reshaped it, and in that reshaping, she had discovered something priceless, dignity that no one could take away. Iris's story shows that even when family betrays you, even when the people closest to you turn into strangers, you can still rise, rebuild, and reclaim your dignity. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Like this video, subscribe, and share it with a friend.